sauce. It's a small batch, handmade hot sauce, made specially for you. So if you like hot sauce, you'll love Great White hot sauce. It's the hot sauce that bites back. Find it at www.trygreatwhite.com. Well, we're back from our Christmas and New Year vacation. And to start off 2022, on this episode, we're going to talk about some of the albums that we carried through our lifetime, all the way up to 2022. You know, those albums you never get rid of and you never stop listening to. So we're going to throw some of those out there. We'll talk about some other things too. Maybe leftover news, maybe new news. Who knows? But thanks for coming back.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
The KOFB studio presents Milk Crates and Turntables, a music discussion podcast hosted by Scott McLean with his co-host Jack Calabrese. Now, let's talk music. Enjoy the show.
Thank you, Amanda, for that wonderful introduction as usual, bringing us into 2022. Yeah, we're back, starting a new season. I don't know if it's a new season, new year. We're actually coming up on a year when we started this podcast in February. If you're listening, thank you. You know what the name of the podcast is. If you like it, share it. Tell a friend about it. Put it on Twitter. Put it on Snapchat. Put it on Facebook. Go to the YouTube channel. Like it. Share it. Subscribe to it. Get the alert for it. You know the whole thing. So we're back. And without further ado, let me bring on my co-host, the man who thinks the Smiths will get together in 2022, Jackie Calabrese.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Happy New Year. How are your holidays?
Yes, my holidays were great. They were great, yeah. All the way up from my holidays started Halloween, actually.
Of course they do.
Started Halloween. Of course they do.
By the way, yeah, I don't think the Smiths will get together in 2022. I do think they'll get together at some point.
No. But like we agreed to, we will definitely, if I got to pay $1,000 for a ticket, I guess I would just do that for that one time, although I've seen Morrissey twice, but it's just a thing. But I don't see that. I think Oasis will get together before the Smiths ever get to that point.
Hey, maybe it'll be a double bill.
How ornery is that, Bill?
Nobody ever thought that that Guns N' Roses was going to get back together. Nobody ever thought that the Black Crowes were going to get back together. They all have, and the Smiths. That it may be a one-off thing. It may be a charity thing or whatnot, but they'll play together again.
I just think Morrissey's gone too far into his solo career and Johnny Marr is comfortable in his. Sometimes these bands they're happy with their legacy. They did it and they move on. They don't think much of it. But you just mentioned the Black Crowes, which brought something into mind. So recently I downloaded a few Black Crowes songs into some playlists and I put on Remedy. Right, I did it through Amazon. Right, it's a great song. Right, great song. Enough to where you know every note, every little nuance of the song. Right. You know what I hate? I hate when bands redo songs because of maybe the rights to the music, or Sony won't release their recording of the Black Crowes because they might own it. So they go in and they redo the song. I know Squeeze did that with their whole catalog. They went and redid them all. And I've heard it in the past on Amazon Music, on AOL Music when they used to have a music channel, Spotify. You know something's just not right. Something's different. And I played Remedy, and I was like, nah. You know what?
I wasn't even aware that they had redone it.
Well, you tell me. I'm going to play it. Whatever happens, happens. But
okay. All right. It's already different.
Listen, just listen even more. Like I said, you know every nuance of that song. It's changed. Right there you can hear it. Right? That wop, 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 wop in the background.
It sounds like a live version.
It's not. It's from Croology, they call it.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that then it was an alternate take, or it was a demo. That they haven't re-recorded it. That's something that they did. They have a tendency to do that on like greatest hits collections where they
throw in these alternate versions.
Yeah, and the super serious fans, they love that stuff. But I think what you just played is a little bit different than what some other bands do. To your point, and to the comment that you made about Squeeze, I think that they redo those songs for a couple of reasons. I think number one, it's a way for them to be able to repackage their music if they got a different deal, and it allows them to basically get paid again for the same songs. I think there's another aspect of it, and the key word here is think, because I don't know if this is true or not, but I think that sometimes there are bands that re-record songs because they can no longer sing them in their original key.
Well, I've never heard that part of it, but I do know that Squeeze did have they didn't own their catalog, right? So they re-record them, and then they own that, and they could sell those to. There's something in the contracts. There's something, however, the music industry is pretty complex. But I know Squeeze did their whole catalog over again, and I heard that, and I was like, yeah. And you hear a lot of like these 80s guys, like you'll hear, I don't know, Soft Cell doing Tainted Love, and you're like, that's not the version. Yeah, I'm in the pool, I'm just chilling, I got on this me, and like, that's not the song. I have to hold on while you're up there, Freeze. I have to walk across the pool, I have to swim across the pool, and I have to change the channel, and then I go back and be comfy in the pool while Jackie's up there freezing his ass off.
What are you talking about?
What? I'm just
how the hell? Wait a minute. How the hell did this turn into?
I don't know. I heard there's a little snow coming up there.
I thought we were going to be a nicer, kinder Scott McClain in 2022.
No. Just had to throw that. I heard some snow is coming your way.
Yeah. We're going to get, I don't know, 3 to 6 inches, something like that. I don't know. Yeah. Whatever.
So, yeah.
But before you get too far away from that, to just agree with your point.
We could keep talking. I don't care.
Yeah. I don't think that I have ever heard one of those, re-recordings, and they all do it. Like even, do you remember for a little while, ZZ Top? What is their probably most famous song?
Legs,
or if you go back, LaGrange.
Oh, if you want to go back to you got LaGrange, you got Tush.
So LaGrange, great song, great rhythm, great atmosphere. It's got everything that a great kind of boogie woogie Texas Southern barbecue song should have. But they felt compelled in the 80s or early 90s or whatnot. I think it came out when they had their like greatest hits collection, that instead of having the classic version of LaGrange, they altered it. They put in these giant sounding drums in probably better technology, fuller sound, bigger sound all around. Not the same. It took away from the song. It was a distraction, especially for those people that grew up with that song. And they want to hear, or I want to hear, those little nuances, even the little mistakes that occur.
Yeah. Hold on one second. Let me check. I think, let me see. More technical difficulties. Maybe not. We might have just got kicked off our live stream. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, we're still live, but I'm checking right now. I don't know.
All right.
Either way, I don't care. Either way.
Here we are, the anniversary of the insurrection, and here we are getting booted off.
That's not. It wasn't. I don't want to get into that. Don't bring that up. We're still streaming on YouTube. That's all. That's really all that matters. But
was it a Capitol riot? Okay, I get it. Oh my God.
Here we go. Well, it looks like we're still up and running. I don't know. Okay. Either way, doesn't matter. The show goes on. It's not about the live stream. So, have you come up with anything, any new music lately?
So, yeah, I'm listening to a bunch of new music. Some of it, I have to tell you, I mean, one of the things that I struggle with is that I'm so all over the board in terms of music. So in terms of new music, and you're going to make fun of me for this, and I deserve it and all that, I listened to the new Ed Sheeran song, Shivers, probably 15 times, the acoustic version of it. And then I took a left-hand turn, and you know what I listened to next?
What? Anything.
Brian Eno in I think the 90s, maybe it was the early 2000s, actually.
Little avant-garde there.
He put out an album called Thursday Afternoon. It's 60 minutes, one song.
I was going to say, very avant-garde. It's
very, very ambient with these bells and whatnot. And I kid you not. So, it's kind of a cool thing, when I'm painting, to have something in the background. And I kid you not, I've listened to that 60-minute song 6 times this week.
Jesus. I wouldn't listen to that taking a dump. I'm sorry. Either one of those
great
songs.
This is why I come onto the show to have an intellectual discussion about the thing that we love. But I will tell you, in terms of new music, the thing that I am somewhat slightly obsessed with these days, and I know you're not a fan either, are the boys from Frankenmuth, Michigan. It's a bunch of brothers, the Kiszka brothers, Kiszka, Josh, Jake, Sam, and then a guy by the name of Danny Wagner on drums, who is better known as Greta Van
Fleet. Okay.
Fan-frickin-tastic band.
Okay.
And somebody that appreciates Led Zeppelin as much as you do, I can't figure out how you don't dig these guys more than you do.
I don't know. I just hear it and it sounds like a tribute band. Just the sound. It's not. I mean, if they had an original sound, then I'd be on board. If they were slightly, but it just screams Led Zeppelin to me, and I'm, you're not listening close enough. Okay, I mean, I'm not. Why are you starting an argument with me in 2022?
Because
why are you already starting arguments?
Because you're wrong. So I think that their sound is different enough and contemporary enough in some regard that it's pretty different. Now, to your defense, or in your defense, they've certainly been had that criticism lobbed at them more than a number of times. Led Zeppelin tribute band and whatnot, and they, I think, took it to heart. In their new release, they kind of went out of their way to change up their sound enough, or they branched out in some different directions.
I'll give it a listen.
I think you really should. I think that they're a fantastic band.
Yeah, if they sounded like anybody else but Led Zeppelin, then I think that the critics would probably give them a small pass. Like, STP sounded like Pearl Jam, or they got a pass in the end but when you sound like arguably the greatest rock and roll band in history, it's
Led
pretty
Zeppelin?
hard to
Not even
shake
close.
that.
Sorry.
It's pretty hard to shake that. You think Led Zeppelin's greater than the Rolling Stones?
No, I think the Stones are a greater band.
Oh, okay. Because I said arguably the greatest, and I thought you said they are. No,
they're not. They're definitely up there. It's hard to argue with the fact that Led Zeppelin has a legacy and a catalog to back it up.
What's your holy trinity of music?
In terms of my top three, who I think
the holy trinity of music. Yeah, holy trinity of music.
The Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and the third one is kind of tough for me.
And this isn't something we can argue about because this is what you think. This is just you won't get an argument from me.
I probably will. I think that Bob Dylan is probably right up there.
Who?
Bob Dylan. Ever heard of him?
Yeah, if you think that's the case, then I mean that's your holy trinity of music. That's who you think belongs there.
Yeah, that third spot is a tough one.
It would be, of course, Beatles, Rolling Stones, and I would have a tough decision between Led Zeppelin.
Soft.
No. Depeche Mode.
Oh, come on.
I'm kidding.
Not even top 10.
I'm kidding.
They're a fine band, but they're not.
No. They're not in that top. But I would say tough call between Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd never gets mentioned in those greatest of all times. They're always in the fourth spot behind the Who or.
So let me ask you this. So who is in number 3, right? So you mentioned Pink Floyd
or
Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Where is Bowie?
And if we were doing a top 10, Bowie would probably be, and this is just off the top of my head, he'd be in the lower 5. I think he'd be in the lower 5.
What about Hendrix?
I don't know.
It's pretty big artists.
I know these are legendary people in music, and it's when you're becoming so critically I don't know if Jimi Hendrix makes it into my top 10. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
well, I mean,
it's all preference. It's all preference.
It's everything as it pertains to art. It's personal preference, and it's what you like, and it's what touches.
Would you
your
put
soul.
David Bowie in front of Elton John? Both dominated the 70s. Totally, absolutely dominated a decade, the both of them.
I think if you were to look at it like you were looking at baseball cards, remember the back of baseball cards that had the stats?
Stats, yeah.
I think that Elton John had a bigger 70s than David Bowie did.
Is there any better, or are there many other greatest hits albums better than his first greatest hits album?
It's incredible. But
isn't it?
But Changes One is pretty damn good.
And again, you'll get no argument from me. And then you go to Changes 2, and then Elton John's second release of greatest hits, and those go toe to toe also.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned the Who, and I love the Who, and they are regarded in that upper echelon. But in terms of their musical output, in terms of what was really successful and really popular, name a good Who album after Quadrophenia. I'm not saying.
I think we've talked about this before. Yeah.
I mean, the Who, they put out Who by numbers in 75, and they put Who Are You in 70, 77, 78, somewhere in there, and those are okay albums. There's a couple of highlights on them, but
I thought Who Are You is a solid album. I thought
it's a solid album, but it's not.
I think Trick of the Light. Not is that a Trick of the Light? Was that one of the songs off that?
Off of Who Are You?
Yeah.
I can't remember if that's on Who Are You.
Either way,
Who by numbers?
It's yeah, the Who is tough. It's tough to put them. Yeah, they're definitely 5 at the worst, I would think. No?
Yeah. They're up there for me. I love the Who. I love them.
Yeah. And they're one of those bands.
There's another band that gets lost in that mix as well, which is the Kinks.
Yeah, the Kinks are a different sound though. They had a whole different sound. They never seemed to shake that 60s sound, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Like these other bands evolved into a different, into the 70s and 80s. The Kinks just always sounded like the Kinks, which isn't a bad thing. But they've always had that rap for being late to the show with the British invasion. And, they've always been like an afterthought when you name off lists, So recently I watched, and I had heard this, but I never saw the documentary. So around 2013, Gary Newman, right? He's one of those guys that you kind of forget about. You forget about how big he was in 79, 80, 81. He's pretty much the godfather of electronic pop. He started off with the Tubeway Army. He was part of that group. And they came out with Down in the Park, which is a great song. But he's pretty dominant in it because his voice. So I watched this documentary called Gary Newman, an Alien in La La Land. I don't know if you ever saw it. But
I haven't seen it.
It was the making of his 2013 album, Splinter. And it really broke down his career. Like, this dude he's very Bowie-esque, too. If you watch his videos, you see his performances. He's very Bowie-esque in the way he moves, those like little slants that Bowie, if he's standing still, he'll lean a little bit. And his head movement is kind of tight, and so, and dead on, like he stares right at something. And it was a fascinating documentary because you never knew what this guy went through. Like you hear Gary Newman in Cars, and he was a product of, which he fucking hates that song. He's grown to really not like that song.
Yeah, but what has it done for him? How much money has Cars?
Oh, he doesn't complain about that. He just hates it. I don't think he plays it in concert anymore. That's like Radiohead doesn't play Creep in concert.
That's not true. That's not true.
Well, they didn't play it for a long time. That's a fact. They stopped playing that for a long time.
They play it occasionally.
Yeah. From what I read, they don't particularly like it. Or they kind of they got labeled with it. They got stuck in that rut with it, and songs like that, like Only Words by Extreme, that song buried them. They buried that band. So Cars, I think, did the same thing to Gary Newman. And it just shows what he went through and how he made this comeback. And he came out with this album, Splinter, and it was it's a great album. It's a great album. I mean,
who's a huge Gary Newman fan?
Who's that?
Lovely Miss Deborah.
Really?
My wife is a huge Gary Newman fan.
I got the T-shirt, as a matter of fact.
I can see that. But it's funny. Like you and I are talking about Gary Newman, and you certainly know his catalog much better than I do. But I can guarantee you that the majority of our listeners don't have a clue beyond Cars.
Well, yeah, I guess. Let me see something. They do. They just don't know it. I'm pretty sure it's a case of.
Nope, you're wrong.
I don't think so.
You're wrong.
I don't think so. No, I'm gonna have to. Let me see. We got time. I don't care. Well, I'll find it. But he has a I'm gonna find this if it's the last thing I do. I'm going to find this thing. All right, here we go. This should be right. Maybe. Sorry for the delay, people, but once I get stuck on something, that's pretty much, I'm going to get it if I want it. No. Download. Anyways. Yeah, I'll find it. So I think Gary Newman, though, he has Down in the Park. He has, let's see, now this is going to bug me right in the middle of a podcast. This
I'm
holds
telling you,
me up.
I would venture to guess that 98% of our audience don't even know Down in the Park.
Really?
I'm telling you, they don't.
Huh. I would think they would, personally.
Well,
anyways, so Gary Newman, great documentary if you get a chance to see it. It's on Epix, I believe, Epix channel. And check it out. And then I came across this group from Minsk in Belarus, right? And I'm thinking, how did I miss this band in like 83, 84, right? Like, so I'm going to play a song. And this group actually came out in 2018, I think. But check this shit out. There was some sort of movement going on in that area of the world where it kind of brought back the dark wave sound, right? Like a few years back, there was a garage band movement in Ireland, you know. And this song, I heard this, I was like, what the hell? Let's see. They're called Molchat Doma. I don't know what the hell they're saying. Speaking Russian. But tell me this doesn't sound like the early 80s. Tell me that's not a throwback to the early 80s. The whole album is like that.
I think most of our audience think that you're playing Gary Newman.
Yeah, well, they get confused easily, evidently.
Now to me, that doesn't even sound like, the 80s. It sounds like the late 70s. Like, to me, that sounds like early Joy Division.
It's pretty cool stuff, man. And then I'm going to play this other song. That song, I don't know what the hell the name is. It's CYAHO in Russian. I don't know. Then there's this one. Tell me who this sounds like. Again, this is Molchat Doma.
Molchat Doma coming at you live on WNBC.
When he starts singing, tell me who this kind of sounds like.
Okay. It kind of reminds me of a cross between Morrissey and Jim Kerr of Simple Minds.
Well, I think you were right. That sounds just like a Smith song to me.
Yeah.
Those Johnny Marr riffs, Yep. So there's heavy influence over there, and and there was another group that I found. They're called like Ploho or something, and it's the same kind of sound.
Heavy influence in what way? Do you think that the Smiths were influenced by these guys?
No. The Smiths influenced them. I think groups like
when did you say this record came out?
This record came out in like 2018.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It does. It has that kind of old retro, almost self-produced
I'm sorry if
sound.
I said that wrong. Yeah, I apologize. No, I it sounds like the early 80s, right?
Yeah,
and I'm like,
does.
this group just came out in 2018. So how heavy is that influence over there?
It's kind of cool, you know. It's almost like Greta Van Fleet ripping off Led Zeppelin.
I'm sure Greta Van Fleet's making a lot more money than these guys. So, have you got a chance to listen to that album I sent you?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. It's definitely on the pile. I kid you not. I think I probably have 20 or 30 albums that I bought in the last year that I've not even opened yet. I went a little cuckoo.
Yeah. It's good to own them, though. It's good to own them.
I went a little cuckoo, and I'll get to them. I just haven't gotten to them yet.
Right. Hey, so give me a standout album in your life.
You mean
a standout? If I say, tell me an album that's a standout, what's the first one that pops to your mind?
I think that probably the first standout album that I can think of is the Cars' first album, and I'll tell you why. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a house where there was a lot of music playing, so I had an early exposure to Patti Smith, television, Elvis Costello, Zeppelin, and all the old stuff that came before that. But the Cars' first album was kind of a coming of age record in that I remember hearing it when we were, I was 14, 13, 14, somewhere in that, maybe even a little bit younger than that. But that was not my parents' music anymore. Right. That was our record, and as a matter of fact, my father had no love for, the Cars whatsoever. But that was the record that you heard at every garage, basement, town party or whatever it was. That record was just played over and over. And it was one of the first records that I remember being pretty much flawless. Like, there's not a bad song on that record.
No, there certainly isn't.
Furthermore, I will tell you that like 2 years ago, I was getting ready to jump on a flight at Logan. I was actually in the parking garage on the top floor, and I was walking toward the terminal, and out of the garage door walked Greg Hawkes of the Cars. I kid you not, this was like 5:30 in the morning.
Really?
He didn't have any luggage. He was coming out of the airport, obviously to find his car or whatnot. And I couldn't believe it. It was just he and I was like, Greg Hawkes. And he was like, hey, how you doing? And I was like, man, your first album was so influential. He was like, played that. My wife loves it. I love it. As a matter of fact, I lost my virginity to that album. Wait a minute. Actually, coming to think of it, I actually lost my virginity to Side One. Actually, when I think of it, it was the first song on the first side that I lost my virginity on. Actually, the part where it goes,
the first 30 seconds of the first song.
Dun-dun.
I knew you were going there.
Dun-dun.
It was over.
It was over. And he laughed his ass off. I got a picture with him and, shook his hand and that was the end of it. But that was pretty funny. But that was a very, very important record and continues to be. It is my wife's favorite album, bar none.
Of all time.
Of all time. She will tell you that record means more to her than any other record that has ever been put out.
Not a bad favorite record. Definitely not a bad favorite record. The one that comes to my mind is Hot Rocks.
Did you have it on album first?
I had it on album, yeah. Then I had an 8-track too.
I had it on 8-track first.
Yeah. Had it on the album, and that was my real. And I mean, what better way to introduce me to the Rolling Stones? Because from Hot Rocks, I went on to go to Strawberry. No, actually, I think I went to the Singing Cricket in Winthrop, Mass, and bought goat's head soup. You know, it kind of led me into that whole. Then I bought the thing about goat's head soup though was the insert. One of the greatest inserts ever. Literally a cauldron of soup, vegetable soup with the goat head in it.
Yeah,
I think I had that up on my wall.
The PETA folks are not big fans of that record.
But Hot Rocks, and although it's a greatest hits.
I was contemplating whether I was going to call you out on that, but it's.
No, I mean, it's just an album that at the time I was 12. You know, it was just I had heard Stone songs, but I never heard all of those songs. You know, the double album set. I listened to every side without fail. You know, I don't think I had. That introduced me to Midnight Rambler.
Yeah,
which was for the longest time my favorite Stone song. So, and that's another thing. How do you transition through songs with groups? Like, first it was Midnight Rambler was my favorite song, right? For years, Midnight Rambler, and then Gimme Shelter was my favorite Stone song for years. Like, it kind of bumped Midnight Rambler, and then like Sway came along, and like Sway is to this day my favorite Rolling Stones song. Right. So, you know, it's funny how you transition through those with a particular group. Do you have something like that you've
all the time
shuffle them all the, you know?
I fall in and out of love with songs all the time. And it's one of my, issues that I have. If I like a song, I'll play it over and over again. I'm
like Freebird, like Sweet Home Alabama.
I will tell you that in the past month, I've probably listened to Freebird a couple of times. Sweet Home Alabama has not found its way back into my heart. It's just way too overplayed. It
ages okay. It ages okay.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's a fine song, but for my money, I would rather actually hear that Kid Rock song that he does where it's Sweet Home Alabama is kind of sampled along with Werewolves of London. Was it All Summer Long?
What's that? The song? Yeah, All Summer Long. It's kind of a country kind of crossover thing for him.
Yeah.
That's when he started moving in that direction. Yeah. So what other?
I like that song, and it's for my money. I actually find that Kid Rock song, at least right now, is more interesting to me than listening to Sweet Home Alabama. And it's just because I've heard Sweet Home Alabama and played Sweet Home Alabama so many times.
Yeah. A great 70s anthem. Cool when you're drinking in the 80s. The 90s, it aged okay. I won't say it didn't age like Freebird, you know. There's probably 5 other songs in my list that I would put before Sweet Home Alabama when it came to Lynyrd Skynyrd. But give me another album that stands out in your life that just pops up into your head after the Cars album.
So I'll go back for this one, and another record that was likely purchased at the Singing Cricket was, and I know this is somewhat kind of cliche, if you will, but it was Revolver by the Beatles. But there's a story that goes along with it. I had a record player in my room, and I couldn't have been more than, 8, 9 or whatnot. And I pretty much got that record because Yellow Submarine was on it. When you're a kid, you like Yellow Submarine.
Absolutely, right? You do.
It's accessible. But here's the thing, and this is one of the reasons why it's an important record for me. Credit given where credit is due. My father would not let me listen to Yellow Submarine on that record. No, not that I couldn't listen to it, but he made me listen to the whole record. Put it on at the beginning, let it play through, flip it over, let it play through. And he would not let me kind of cue it to Yellow Submarine. So I got to hear a lot of things that I would not have otherwise heard. And I didn't know it at the time. But what the lesson my dad was teaching me is that there's There's gold, and then there are hells. You know, if you
Yeah.
look through that record, you can. And this is one of the things that kids miss today. You know, with the music, the way that it's put out, and the way that it's accessible, and the way that, to my opinion, or in my opinion, is disposable. The kids don't listen to albums anymore. They listen to whatever the top song is, and they don't go much beyond that.
Absolutely. I think we've discussed that more than a couple times. It's too easy. It's too easy now.
Too easy.
You know, the process of getting up and moving a needle to skip a song was something that you had to make an effort. If you were sitting down in the beanbag chair like I was, you really didn't want to get up and move the needle just to, sit back down again or whatever. What's the Beatles album with Hey Jude on it? Is that
called? Well, Hey Jude was actually not on a Beatles album, an original Beatles album. It was a single.
It was a single. Then what was what's the album where they're standing the four of them are standing in front of a
called
doorway?
Hey Jude.
That's it, right? That's the name of the album?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it came out as Hey Jude. It's almost like a kind of a greatest hits. It's a compilation of some of the singles that were released.
That at the time was probably my favorite Beatles. So I had a tambourine that my mother gave me, and I would listen to, I must have drove her nuts, because I'd have the headphones on and I'd be listening to that thing, banging that tambourine. Again, I was 12, 11, 12, maybe 13. I'm not sure. I think, probably more like 11 or 12. And I would jam to that album from first song to last song, side one to side two. And it was just one of those records that always stuck with me. And I don't even know. I think I know. As a matter of fact, I do have a copy of it, I believe.
Yeah. So I just looked it up real quick. So Hey Jude,
Lady Madonna
is an album that was released on February 26, 1970. The track listing was Can't Buy Me Love, I Should Have Known Better, Paperback Writer, Rain, Lady Madonna, Revolution, Hey Jude, Old Brown Shoe, Don't Let Me Down, and The Ballad of John and Yoko.
That's where Don't Let Me Down became my favorite Beatles song of all time. Still.
So what Hey Jude was the original title for it was actually called The Beatles Again, is a 1970 collection of non-album singles and B-sides by the Beatles.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Those fucking songs on that album were B-sides.
They were so prolific.
Oh my
God.
God.
You have songs like Hey Jude that, we don't need to put it on our album. We already have enough stuff on our album. We'll just release it as a single.
Or a B-side, or like, it's just on that album. There's bands that wish they had 3 songs on a B-side collection. 3 good songs. Like, these are all, it's unbelievable. And this generation does not appreciate them at all.
Now, there you go. If you want to win a bar bet, if you want to get a free drink somewhere, if you find somebody that's a big Beatles fan or a big music fan, ask them what original album, not greatest hits or compilation, was Hey Jude on, or Old Brown Shoe, or Don't Let Me Down, or Can't Buy Me Love.
They
will get it wrong, because they will not remember that the Beatles actually put out music that was just a single.
Yeah. Which is what a lot of acts today do. I hesitate to say bands, but a lot of bands or music acts do that today on digital downloads.
That's true. It's true. And the game has changed, but in some sense, it's actually reverted back to the way that it was.
Yeah. It's easier for these kids today to do it, and which I guess is a good thing. But again, goes back to a conversation we had in the past about, is there too much music out there now? I mean, it's not too much for a listener, but maybe it is. It could be overwhelming. But for a band to make it today, you have to have, 10 Colonel Parkers running your show.
Yeah.
To make it even halfway to the top. Get into the top 100.
It's hard to criticize in some regard for the people today that just listen to singles, because I don't know about you, but that's how I started. Like, you brought up Elton John. It was a while before I could actually afford an Elton John record, and my dad wasn't really a big fan. But I tell you that I probably had 8 of his 45s.
Yes. I had said in the past, again, I became a collector of people's collections, as you know.
Yes. Yeah.
And every time someone donated their collection to my collection of collections, there was always 45s in there. And somebody sent one of those, it's like a really Art Deco, aqua, lime green, and white, like pastel coloring on this box. And it's a box of 45s. It has the clips and the handle on top. So if you're going to a party, you just took your 45s with you, which is that in itself. I don't care what's in it, but that box in itself is pretty cool to look at because it just invokes memories,
Yeah.
Great memories.
Absolutely.
Like you probably had 100 45s. You know why? Because 45s were like, what, $1 a piece? Were they even $1?
When we were kids, they were like 75 cents or something like that.
Yeah, for maybe, 45.
Maybe even.
Because an album was like $7, right? $6-7 back then in the 70s for an album.
Maybe even cheaper than that. In the earlier days, it was more like, $5 or whatnot. I remember, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I remember Tom Petty kind of going on strike because the record company wanted to put out his album at $8. He thought that it was absolutely outrageous.
Yeah. Now they're 30.
I know.
Which is unbelievable. Which used to be $30 could get 5 of us into a concert at one point.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe not the front row, but we'd have good seats.
We're dating ourselves. I remember we used to get out of the soup line and go see Van Halen for $4.
Okay. This is, I'm going to do this on my phone. It's going to come over my microphone, but people have heard this, and then I'm going to get into, we'll wrap it up because we're up on 47 minutes. Then we'll get into On This Day in Music. But this song by Gary Newman is called Our Friends Electric. It was actually Two Boy Army, but Gary Newman kind of owns it. So this is it. See, I know people have heard that song. And then Down in the Park. This is Down in the Park. Foo Fighters do a great remake of this. I'm sure people have heard that song. They just might not have known it was Gary Newman or,
I'm telling you, that the majority of our audience have never heard that song.
Then I hate my audience. He's the godfather of, it's synth. How could they not know this? He's the godfather of synth pop. He listened to Kraftwerk, right? And he's like, he loved it. But he's like, I can't do that. Like, how can I take this to the next level? So he's pretty ingenious how he marketed himself, how he created this persona. And actually the guy is afraid of his own shadow. Like he was very reclusive. He was shy. Oh, wait, here we go. Oh, I see Scott, the IT guy, finally came in when the show's about to end, and all he does is dot.
Well, it's because we generally start at 8:00. You can't yell at them for being on time. God damn it, we started early.
Hey, Hey, we're coming up on 6,000 downloads, so I have an ego now, okay?
Stop yelling at our Nolan Gary Newman audience.
Hitting the big time. Hey, Perry's there. I bought My Sweet Lord 45 for 89 cents. See, there you go. There you go. My Sweet Lord. Let me see. What is Mark Flynn, friend of the show? We love you, though you hate us. That's okay. That's okay. And yeah, Scott, the IT guy, perfect timing. Yeah, coming in at the end of the show. I want to see my outro. Well, you didn't get any hot sauce for Christmas anyway, so. But yeah, so let's jump into.
He didn't get any hot sauce. I haven't gotten any hot sauce. I carry this goddamn show.
You have to. Yeah. Okay, donkey. Okay, you just show up. All right, let's do it on this day.
I'm just a stupid co-host, right? You know, I don't get any hot sauce. You don't allow me to play music on my end.
If you can play it if you want. I never stopped you from doing that. I'm just not letting you play that fucking guitar. All right, on this day in January 6, 1956, Elvis Presley performed in the gym at Randolph High School in Mississippi. This was the last time he would ever appear in a small auditorium. On this day in 1958, the Flying V Gibson guitar, or Gibson Guitars, launched its Flying V electric guitar. Can you name some people that play the Flying V?
Sure. Paul Stanley of Kiss. Randy Rhoads was a big Flying V player, although I don't know that it was a Les Paul. I think it was a kind of a custom job. You know, there certainly a lot of people in the 70s were big Flying V people. I think the guys in Triumph played it. The guys in Blue Oyster Cult,
Judas Priest, I think.
Judas Priest. The funny thing is you didn't see any of the big classic groups play it. Like you didn't see the Who or the Stones.
No. Jimi Hendrix, Mark Bolan, Billy Gibbons, big Flying V guy.
Sure. Yeah.
As Perry Dietovich, Lonnie Mack. Yeah. On this day in 1968, the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour started an 8-week run at number 1 on the U.S. charts, the group's 11th U.S. top charter. A chart topper. Did I just make up a word?
Charter,
on this day in top charter. Top charter. On this day in 1973, Carly Simon's You're So Vain with who on backing vocals? Easiest question in the world.
Mick Jagger singing background vocals, song about Scott McLean.
Well, we'll get to that. Hold on. Started a 3-week run at number 1 on the U.S. singles chart in 2015. Oh, in 2015, after keeping quiet for more than 40 years, Carly Simon admitted that You're So Vain was about Warren Beatty, but only one verse of it. She said the other verses were about 2 other men. See, now I can come clean. And by the way, Carly Simon, greatest mouth in the history of music.
Oh my God.
Carly Simon has the best mouth in the Sheryl Crow is probably second. Yeah. Now people are going to go look at Carly Simon's mouth when she sings. Greatest mouth in music. I pay attention, Jack.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
I pay attention, Jack. I pay attention.
I think that Carly Simon is just an absolutely talented, genius woman. I don't think her physical beauty comes into play at all. I don't objectify women like that.
Beta mill. Anyways, okay, sure. On this day in 1975, the mayor of Boston canceled a Led Zeppelin concert after over 2,000 fans rioted trying to buy tickets. The fans caused an estimated $50,000 to $75,000 worth of damage to the Boston Garden. The gig during the band's North American tour was rescheduled for February 4th. And I think we talked about that riot.
Very famous event. Those asshole kids ruined our opportunities to see Led Zeppelin.
It's fucking Bostonians.
Yeah, it was.
They ruined everything.
It was probably freaking brothers.
Yeah, well, or someone we know.
I'm sure.
On this day in 1975, Pink Floyd started sessions at Abbey Road Studios for their next album, Wish You Were Here.
Yeah.
Yep, their 9th studio album was released on September 12th, 1975. Features Shine On, You Crazy Diamond, a tribute to Syd Barrett, whose mental breakdown had forced him to leave the group 7 years earlier. On this day in
Syd Barrett's birthday.
It's today.
Was either today or yesterday?
Are you jumping ahead of me? Are you trying? You want to just take this segment over?
I might as well. This is like the most boring part of this show.
Fuck you.
It's fucking terrible.
It's not terrible. I want people to. You know what? If you don't like this, people need. This is going to be a good year.
Gary Newman bought a new pack of batteries for his Casio keyboard. Who gives a shit?
Okay. All right. I guess they'd rather hear you play your guitar. Jesus Christ. On this day, these are good did you knows. People like this stuff. I don't care what you say. You don't even have, listen to you. You're not even technologically sound. You sound like a Gary Newman record. You're breaking up.
I am on the Autobahn.
Okay. Now you're talking and your voice is coming out second. It's like I'm watching a Godzilla movie. Jesus Christ.
Hey.
Get technologically sound. People can, they've heard me say Jesus Christ before.
Watch the language.
Mark Flynn says, hell no, Jack's guitar, more boring as trivia. More boring as trivia, please. All right, on this day in 1977.
Look, Mark, I don't even have it in my.
This
is the first show in forever. I don't even have it.
You're doing the Godzilla thing. Your mouth is talking and the sound is over. You had it, then you put it down. We'll go back to the tape. You can strum a little while I'm doing this if you want. You can be involved. On this day in 1977, the Sex Pistols, EMI Records dropped the Sex Pistols, giving the band $68,000 to release them from their contract. And on this day in 1990, Phil Collins started a 3-week run at number 1 on the U.S. album chart with "But Seriously," his 4th studio album. He was a force in the 80s. Phil Collins
was huge. He was everywhere. It was almost too much.
Yeah. Yep. On this day in 1993, it was reported that David Bowie had lost over $4.25 million in unpaid royalties to an Italian mafia-linked bootleg gang. Yeah, what's he going to do to them? I'm David Bowie. I want my money back, sir. Is that how he talks?
Hey, you in the dress. Come here.
Yeah. Okay, Red.
We're taking your money. And you know what you're going to do about it? Nothing.
It was a sad day on this day in 2006 when American soul jazz singer legend Lou Rawls died at the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in L.A. 72 years old.
You'll never find.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's part of it. He's part of our childhood as far as music goes.
Another love like this.
Don't.
Sorry.
Thank you. This is interesting.
More,
on this day
more.
in 20,
give us more.
On this day, we just fuck. Anyways, on this day in 27,
on this day is 1976. Neil Diamond took a shit.
This is I'm ready for next show already, buddy. It's the war is on, buddy. The gauntlet has been dropped. On this fucking day in 2017, Norway announced that it would become the first country in the world to gradually stop using the FM radio network. The move, which aimed to ditch the analog platform in favor of a digital one called digital audio broadcasting, would bring a clearer sound to the nation's 5 million people. Imagine that. It's only 5 million people in that place.
That's fascinating, Mr. Science. Can you teach us how to build a radio out of coconuts?
Born on this day. I'm pressing on. Born on this day. In 1924, Earl Scruggs. Right? The American musician noted for perfecting and popularizing a three-finger banjo picking style, now called Scruggs style. He worked with Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys. Scruggs scored a hit as Flat and Scruggs with the Ballad of Jed Clampett for the TV show The Beverly Hillbillies. Yeah. Look at that. Born on this day, Syd Barrett. Singer-songwriter, guitarist from Pink Floyd who lost his fucking mind. Born on this day in 1953, a very, very, very underrated bass player and a key part to the sound of AC/DC, Malcolm Young, God rest his soul, was born on this day in 1953. His brother of Angus Young.
Wait a minute. I thought Malcolm Young played rhythm guitar.
No, wasn't he the bass player?
Dude, if you're going to, bore the hell out of people with this crap, you should make sure it's at least accurate. All right, I'm gonna look it up, but I think that Malcolm Young was a rhythm guitar player. Care to make it interesting? You want to bet?
You never pay. Oh, darn, we just went off the air.
That's not nice.
Okay. Are we going to wait for you to look this up, or can we bring it up next
No,
show?
You can keep going.
I'm done. There's nobody else worth telling their birthday to, and I'm done with the...
Malcolm Mitchell Young was an Australian musician who was the co-founder, rhythm guitarist, and backing vocalist and songwriter of the rock band AC/DC.
My notes were wrong. Okay, my notes are wrong. So what?
Wow.
It's his birthday anyways. The guy's dead, and you're here making fun of him.
I'm not making fun of him.
You just made fun of him. You just made fun of the dead guy.
Malcolm Young plays bass. January 6th wasn't an insurrection. You're making shit up all over the place.
You're such a fucking asshole. All right. Where's Scott the IT guy? Shush. Yeah, I shushed you. Scott the IT guy doesn't give me an outro. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching to the live stream.
Wait a minute. On 1973, on this day, I went down to Samuel's Pharmacy and had my first time Ricky.
You like that kid, the kid that has a funny joke and then fucking runs it into the ground and keeps telling it over and over until it's not funny anymore.
I remember the first time that I told a joke. It was on this day in 1970.
Oh, my Lord. All right. No outro. We'll see you next week.
Scott.
I'm done. I'm done. Jack, stay on so I can yell at you. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Share. You shut up. Jesus Christ. Good night. Share this if you like. I don't even know what to say.